Yep.
Okay, welcome to Right Back Radio live at Gateway Con. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and explain to the audience as well as our guest speaker today how this works. Right Back Radio is always a panel discussion. The concept that the producer has any true control over a conversation is a complete myth. I have none. But how this works is we do have signs and signals to each other to be able to discuss what the topic is. Today's topic is going to be talking about describing your book in a nutshell. And how this works is, thank you, I knew Brad was up to something. In sign, yeah, you can. In American Sign Language, the letter R is made by crossing your fingers. When somebody has a thing they want to say that might change the way the direction of the conversation is going and so forth, we do an R. We have what's called a dovetail, which means Jen just said something amazing, or I just said something amazing, and just, I want to say something related to that. And so she throws out a dovetail. Dovetails outrank reservations. I'm always looking to see who's doing what, and I'm trying to pick. This is a weird radio or podcast version of a TV show that is on PBS here in St. Louis called Donnybrook. The thing we don't talk about is politics. So, are the news. We talk about writing, and we talk about the writer industry. We talk about trying to get through this crazy world that the writing industry has become. 30 years ago, or less, the concept that you would have been indie published was unheard of. Or, okay, it wasn't unheard of. Good luck trying to get anybody to buy it. Good luck trying to get anybody to market it for you. And you were pretty much stuck in a rug. Furthermore, a lot of the indie published authors back then were, not any good. They didn't bother editing and so forth, which some indie publishers still suffer from. However, you also see that now in traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is a whole different route, and it's a different route to navigate. I will gamble and say, at least as far back as 10 years, if not 5 years ago, the concept of a hybrid author, this is one who's gone down both roads, was unheard of. Because I know as of 2010 at least, when there was a discussion at a panel, at another writers conference that said, you're either one or you're the other. Well, that has changed. Come on up, ladies. We knew you were going to be late. For the viewing audience out there who will see this live or see this in recording, we've had people at the Right Back attending master classes, so they are now mistresses of writing, and they're joining us here, which is why I'm glad we haven't started the intros. Okay? Well, I am going to be thinking for Ryan with this. So with that, let us begin. And everybody, please keep your intros short. So I'm David Lucas. I'm the president of Winding Trails Media, the producer of Right Back Radio, president of St. Louis Writers Guild, voice actor, and martial arts instructor, and that's as far as I'm going. And with me is I call her my lovely co-host. She is an amazing author of her own right who never toots her own horn. So I am tooting her own horn a little bit before I introduce her. She is in an anthology which was a Nebula or the Hugo. It's been Hugo Award nominated. I don't know if they've won it yet or not. She is nominated for Shirley Jackson Award. I knew Jackson, I wasn't sure if it was initial in there. That is going to be announced next month, which is July. So with that, let me introduce her because she wouldn't have told you this on her own.
That is correct. I would not have. I'm in this book, the best science fiction fantasy of the year as well, which is the only thing I would have said because the book is actually physically here right now. I write speculative fiction and romance and try to have fun.
Did you ever say your name?
My name is Kathleen Kayembe, and it's also Kaseka Ndita.
Yes.
Hi.
There you go. One of the fun things we don't normally have to deal with because we sit around a round table, and the normal microphone we have is this thing here standing in the middle, but now we've got a different microphone. So we're playing two mics. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Melanie Lucas. I am currently working on a fantasy novel, and I'm currently in a competition with my husband David Lucas to see who can get done the first draft of their novel
Yes.
first.
He's leading. She's also,
Okay, yes, I'm ahead, but he has every advantage of winning.
now the Gateway Con will be over in just about an hour, yes. And she is also published in scientific papers.
Under a different name.
Yes.
They're not gonna look up your scientific papers to, anyway, if they're not access somewhere. Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Stolzer. I'm a children's book author and illustrator.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi!
Jennifer.
My novel Threadcaster is sitting right in front now that those that are viewing Right Pack Radio for this rare occasion that you can actually view it, you can see the cover. It's available on Amazon and ebook paperback. It's also available if you're local in the St. Louis area at the Novel Neighbor and Main Street Books in St. Charles. Every copy at those local places are signed by me, so if you'd like a signed copy, find it there. I also do picture books and soon to be, hopefully, chapter books for elementary school.
You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and go pass it on to our guest speaker here. It's gonna be easier, but before I let her go completely,
Jennifer's my other person I absolutely love but never promotes herself. Jennifer was the top 5 of the Reader's Choice Award in St. Louis St. Louis Publishers, St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper for children's authors.
Children's authors top 5 voted by readers.
yes, voted by readers.
Hi, my name is Lane Boyd. I have 4 mystery books. One is a What's Going On, one's a Whodunit, and the other 2 are a series, psychological thriller, and the action-packed conclusion to that. I also help veterans tell their stories, and my brand new release is Way Beyond the Blue, the memoirs of Colonel Jack Jackson, who was a Vietnam veteran who flew over 660 combat missions, served as a 2-term Missouri State Representative, and was the chief test pilot for the F-18 and the Harrier jet.
You're right, yes. Thank you.
And I am representing Sisters in Crime.
Yay. Yeah, my madame.
Madama Murder, I need to toss this over here. This is not the best way to do this. Our Madama Murder was not able to attend, so she sent Lane in her place, so we have a new Madama Murder. Over here, another person who I absolutely love who will not publicize what she's done. Chanel, tell me what happened this weekend with your pitches.
No.
You hate me. She got a full request.
Yay!
Hi, my name is Shalana Chan. I write speculative fiction, literary fiction, whatever makes me feel less angsty that day. I am currently getting ready to go off to do an MFA in New Orleans. That's fine.
And she will stay with us because we have this thing called Zoom. She'll still be able to attend.
Hello, I'm Lee Savage, the author of Erotica for the Truly Wicked that has the St. Louisville Vampire series. I've been MIA because of school and other activities, but I get to be at this event and I'm happy to be here.
Now, from esteemed Admiral himself.
Yeah, I am Brad R. Cook. I am the author of 4 novels. They are all steampunk adventures. I have these 2 are my YAs, and then I also have a middle grade steampunk. This is the first and the third of the completed trilogy, and oh, I know, yes. I am the author of the Iron Chronicles, which is the trilogy, the YA trilogy that I wrote, and then the Airdream Adventures is the middle grade that I have written. I also write a blog, a sword fight, I do a bunch of other stuff like that, and stuff like Gateway Con.
And our for final.
It's really weird to actually be here with everybody, because usually I'm piping digitally from Hannibal, Missouri. I am fantasy author Ryan P. Freeman, several different books out, all kind of coming of age, high fantasy and stuff. And
Not just you.
not just
You got some more requests as well.
well, yeah, that was kind of weird. It was like aliens. There were agents fighting over that.
He says so.
Well, it just sort of happened. I don't know. I'm also the founder of the Animal Writers Guild. I also head up the marketing for all this. And
All gateway kind of is.
Yeah, you gotta let our gateway kind.
Yeah,
Because they hadn't heard the 20 other.
oh yeah, we're at Gateway Con.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh great. That's good. That's good. Anyway, so I have Brain Spell, Trombos, and Moses Square Altel, and hopefully Famous, which is what I pitched the other day, and it was awesome. So I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alright.
Jump right in and talk about something that's extremely important. I don't care if it's about pitches, or you're describing your book on the back of your cover, or you're trying to sell your book, hand sell your book to someone. You need to know how to describe that book in a nutshell. A short story, very quickly, because I know I ran a long time explaining how this works. It was a gentleman, a fellow author, who was at a great book fair, not this one. He sat there for almost a full day and a half, if I remember right, had not sold a single book. I walked up to him, because I knew him, and I said, tell me about your book. Tell me about it. He starts going and going and going, and my eyes glaze over like a Krispy Kreme donut. I was like, okay, stop. I picked up his book, started looking, and said, tell me, let's break this down, let's break this down. And by the end, we were done, which was good, 20-minute talk. By the end of that book fair, by the end of that, he had a way to describe it. By the end of the book fair, he had sold at least 5 to 8 books in less than half a day. So, with that, how do you guys go about describing your work?
We all have them.
You all have them, and you can choose to. But before we go there, tell me how you took this. Well, I wrote a book about. I'm far away from you. I wrote a book about curses in a completely different universe.
And tell me how you get the description of Threadcaster.
Oh, well, Threadcaster, I'll talk forever about Threadcaster if you want me to. The important part, Threadcaster is a great jumping point because it's both a genre book and for a specific reading level audience. When you're pitching a book to an agent, it's not the same as pitching a book to a potential buyer, but there are similarities. One of them is when people walk up, they want to know who my book is for. I say it's a YA fantasy. I describe the main character first. She's a 16-year-old girl. She can cast magic with Threadcaster or Cat's Cradle string. She draws runes in the string to cast magic spells. Her best friend Peter is turning to stone from the inside out. And that is, he's one of 4 curses, different element curses that inhabit the world. And the curses exist, they come across some ancient history that tell them that magic, the reason the curses exist is because magic is evil. So they go on a quest to try and ransom their pissed off and angry god to come back and take magic away from the people who are in charge so people will stop being cursed. That is a long, rambling sentence I just said. Thank you for listening to it. Get it on Amazon. It's good from person to person, but if you want to deliver it, my little catch line that I use is, I call it the Oregon Trail through Oz. If Oz were a desert and Dorothy could shoot fire from her hands. That usually gets people to smile, and it gives you an idea of sort of like the tone of it, the setting, the main character, and that it's a fantasy, it's got magic stories in it. I don't go into the full detail of curses and everything. Those are interesting, but once you got a hook on it, then you can go into that. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, this is her, and this is him, and this is what they do, and hand gestures and everything like that. But you need to have, I start with the genre and the audience, and then I jump into my hooky logline. That's how I hand sell to start with. I have lots of hand sell. Who's first?
I'm going to pass it to Brad, then goes to Ryan, then goes to Lee.
All right. If you were at my pitching workshop, you actually got a whole description of this. So If you want to write the description for your book, that description is generally going to come, it's similar to what you wrote in your query letter, it's similar to how you pitched your book, it's similar to how you're going to sell your book over there. So it needs a few things. You've got to have the hook. Jen mentioned her hook. The hook is what pulls people in. You got to have a little bit of the plot, not the whole plot, but just a little couple of points from the plot. And then you need your character, you need your main character, you describe who's going to be in the book. And then the big one, and this is the one that I can't stress enough, you need the stakes. You need to say what matters in this book, what's going to happen, you know, what's so important that if the character fails, you know, the whole world will be destroyed. But that is probably the best advice that I can give you on how to describe your book, how to make your book description sound punchy, and then really it's just about editing out all the little words until you're just left with the meaty juiciness of your book description.
Okay, we're going to go to Ryan, then we're going to go to Lee, and then we're going to go to or unless you got dovetail. You got dovetail? Okay.
I learned what I learned and was able to get to this point from these guys. They're saying stuff and it's really important, and I take notes because it works. No, it really does. Like today is the proof of that. What?
I'm waiting for the butt. No, there is no butt. I bring rain spell, I didn't know what to do with it, and these guys helped. It's just that simple. I mean, there's something that each writer brings to the table, not just in their words, but in who they are, that can't be duplicated or replicated in any way. When I'm hand selling, I usually dress up like maybe now, and I was gonna kill, by the way. Well, I'm gonna kill. You can't really see, but I'm gonna kill. And but I'm not just doing it because like I'm part Scottish and I'm proud. When do you get to go to a bookstore, say in the mall or something, dress up, yell at people, and make money, right? Well, this is great. This is great. And, you know, I've only had one person so far reject it, but you say everybody loves dragons, right? And unless there's some other like weird, sad person out there that needs help, I'll give you a hug. Everybody loves dragons, and so whatever book you have in your hand, it's not something, you know, right now. It's not something that you should just sit behind a table and like hope someone comes up to you. You need to go to them, and it's not something that it would just happen. You need to engage the person, whether it's an agent that you're pitching, or it's somebody that you're trying to get interested in at the mall with you. You bring something to the table that's more than just what you bring.
I'm going to have you pass it this way that makes it easy right now rather than going around.
One of the things I do, particularly when I'm selling in the St. Louis area, is all of my books take place in the St. Louis area. I try to let a prospective buyer know what's different, what's unique about my books. Why would you want to buy my mysteries rather than somebody else's mysteries? And so some of the things that make my books different are everything takes place in St. Louis. All of the places, the restaurants, the landmarks are real. People, of course, are not. I don't want to get sued. Also, my books are animal friendly. I'm a huge animal lover, and so my dogs and cats, whatever, they all play a role in the books. I also promote things like spay and neuter and shelter adoptions. We celebrate the special bond between pets and their humans. And the third thing that sets my books apart is that they are clean. I kill people tastefully. I think they're just as dead if I give you 1 or 2 sentences describing that they're dead as if I spend 5 pages talking about blood and guts and eyeballs and brains hanging out, which the person is still dead. So we kill them and we move on. So, and also I do not use foul language, and I don't write offensive scenes so that when your preteen picks up the book, you don't have to say, oh, let me put that down. And I have learned that by telling that particular aspect to so many prospective buyers, they're interested in that because people really are getting kind of tired of the same old with the naughty words and all of that. So I just try to let them know, how is my book unique? Why is it different?
Got dovetail right next to you. Then coming down here to Lee.
Well, that's a great example of finding your audience. Yeah, you mentioned those things. Those are the things that make your book different from other people's books. And those audience members, those readers that prioritize that, they know, oh, yes, this is what I want. And there are other readers who maybe that's not as important, they still like murder mystery, they'll still pick it up, but people who, if it was the other way around, that, you know, if you kill a dog in this book, I'm no longer your friend and I'm putting it down, then they know that this is a safe book to go to. And another book might be one, if you like blood, guts, and gore, then you know who to find to get blood, guts, and gore. It's not a positive, negative, you know, blood, guts, and gore are worse than this. It's just that specifically she's appealing to an audience that would rather have less of that in their book. And that's a selling point to those people.
I'm glad you both brought those things up, because I'm not sure how much we've talked really about tailoring your description to the audience that you have at the time. Like what you tell when you have 1 minute to get across what your book is about is very different from what you tell when you have 5 minutes. And if you know, for instance, somebody really likes dragons, you would tell them about the dragons in your book, whereas if you knew that dragons had killed that person's father, then maybe you wouldn't mention the dragons.
Maybe you would say, warn them about the dragon.
Well, I mean, if the dragon doesn't die, then you don't mention the dragon. Just give them to a different book. Give them a different book. They won't like that one. The other thing is I have a novelette called You Will Always Have Family, a triptych. And I call it a Congolese American ghost story. And I don't bring up the fact that there's a witch in it because that will mean something different if you are American versus if you are Congolese. Like the entire definition of a witch is different. So I just call it a ghost story because it is, and it's less confusing for people. I'll tailor to my audience.
Yes, you do, and that's a very good thing too. It's your audience that determines it.
I'm probably a little bit different than the rest, so I present myself first. I'm Lee Savage, author of Erotica for the Truly Wicked. So as soon as you come and touch my books, you know right up front what you're going to be interested in, and then I gear you towards, well, here's my St. Louisville vampire, and then here's this, and here's this. And then I see kind of what they're gauging, what they're going to touch, what they're interested in, and then I tailor my pitch based on where their hands are moving, what seems to engage them. Because I have a different degree of books, so I can appeal to a variety of readers. I even have poetry at my table. So it's a matter of first drawing them in and then seeing what interests them.
Drake better caution right there, sorry. So I hear a lot about, tailoring to your audience, tailoring to who's listening to what you're talking about. But I want to know more. I want to know the nitty-gritty. I want to know how, if you were, because we just had pitch sessions and I was there the entire time. If you were pitching this to an agent or a publisher, how would you describe it differently than if you're pitching it to someone who just walked up to you? Or how would you describe it differently based on where you are or your setting or whatever? I want to know those things.
On to Brad.
Okay, as the guy who gave the workshops this weekend on that, I probably am the expert in air quotes there. So yeah, when you are talking to an agent or an editor or a book, well, not necessarily an editor so much as an agent or a publisher, it's not necessarily about tailoring to them. You can. You should have looked them up. You should know exactly what they represent and all that kind of fun stuff. But really, it's about hitting on to the points of your book and your story and your character and what sets it apart. These aren't things you're necessarily going to tell your readers. You're not going to say, yeah, my book's so much better than Twilight because of this. But you are definitely telling an agent that, Exactly. So, my vampires don't sparkle. That's the first thing you're going to tell an agent. But yeah, so when you are addressing an agent, when you're pitching your book, and I mentioned those before, there are certain things that need to go into a pitch. And the way a pitch is structured that you need to kind of hit on. You need to pass off your genre and your word count. You need to let them know who your intended audience is and all of these other kind of factors that a reader just is never going to care about. But one thing I would really quickly go into is we talked about tailoring your book, but a lot of times you're not going to be able to do this. You need to write a description, a back jacket copy for your book. The back jacket is exactly what we talk about. It's the back of the book, the description that goes on there. You can't tailor that. You're not going to be able to say, oh, this is the back for you, and hey, this is the back for you. You know, unless you've really printed up like 5 or 6 different copies of your book, and who's going to do that? So when you are writing a description, it's best to write one description and then tailor from that. So if you've got the one description that you used to pitch, and you used on the back jacket, and you used to sell, and all of that kind of stuff, it is really easy to tailor that to, say, you know, someone who's good younger, or someone who's waffling on whether or not they even know what steampunk is. It's Victorian sci-fi, that's awesome. But yeah, so you're not always going to be able to tailor your description of your book. So write a really awesome description of your book, and then use that as the basis for all other descriptions of your book, and then tailor it as needed. It's a really good, you know, kind of option. So yeah, I'll pass on.
Okay, actually, I'm going to pass on to Lee, but before you do, real fast.
I'm gonna say there's times in which I absolutely love these guys because they are on the same wavelength with me. Chanel, you kicked it down the path I wanted it to go. So yay, and then Brad kicked it down the next path I wanted it to go down. So thank you.
I also would say you really need to know yourself and know 2 other authors you're like. So it's good to say, I usually tell people I'm in between Christine Freeman and Laura K. Hamilton. And if those are the readers that I'm talking to, they know exactly what to expect right there. I say I'm in between these 2, and boom, they know what to expect.
Count times. We don't know, or count authors. Either one works well.
What are those?
What are those?
Yeah, let me cap check question. What's the
Okay, real quick, comp titles is 1 book plus 2 book equals your book. The one I love to use in my talk is Twilight meets Harry Potter. Please do not write that book. And then the other one that we just described is the 2 authors. So I'm like author 1 and like author 2, but I'm somewhere in between. So that's probably the best way to do book comps. But it's a huge thing in the industry. You'll hear them talked about in Hollywood movies. They're called log lines. And so it's a very simple, easy way of describing a book without actually describing your book, using kind of cultural norms to get across your idea.
To be honest, I actually struggle with this, and I hate it. I hate writing back cover descriptions. I hate writing pitches. Well, we're all not Brad, so the rest of us who aren't Brad, I listened to what I could, and I tried to follow advice, but in the end, what I did is I went into a bookstore and I found a book, a comp title to what I'm trying to write, or what I kind of associate what I write with. And I looked at their back cover, and I imitated like the cadence of it, not like the words, but the cadence of it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's worked. It's worked. And it's a really simple way if you want to kind of like get the feel of it to start off with. It's worked for me. I don't know. Try it out and see if it works.
Hand this down to Kathleen if you would, and then I'm going to come up after Kathleen unless somebody does this. Unless you actually have the same.
I would like to have an example of the best way to craft a book description, because Romeo and Juliet, 2 teenagers like each other and die. Are we really? Like, what would you say for Romeo and Juliet, for example, that would be engaging and not just?
If you're writing Romeo and Juliet as a YA, I would say that it's, it's hard because I would use a lot of Romeo and Juliet allusions.
Yes. It is the tragic
tale of star-crossed lovers.
Exactly.
The tragic tale of star-crossed lovers. A girl and a boy meet on a dark night. He sees her in the window, but their families don't get along. There's murder, there's death. And will they triumph? The answer is they don't. But they do, but not in the way that the YA book wants them to. The YA book would like them to run off together, but in truth, they triumph in uniting their houses by committing suicide together, which is not quite a YA type thing. Although nowadays you can write anything you want, actually. I I challenge you all to write an actual Romeo and Juliet adaptation in which they both die for the good of society.
Can we just say that it's really just they needed to have a conversation?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
It's
no
two
kidding.
people who just needed to talk.
That's the fun of most programs. Anyway, sidebar, actually, I'm dovetailing into Kathleen's question with this. So in a way, we're actually thinking the same as well. A book cover has only so much space in it. Amazon only has so much space that you can do. How do you properly, let's say we're doing Romeo and Juliet, or I'm gonna throw out Hamlet. Your question reminded me of a book that's, I don't know if it's around anymore or not, I've never seen it. Everybody knows Cliff Notes, right? Has anyone else besides me ever heard of Jump Off the Cliff Notes? All right, so you know the jokes that are inside there. They were short, and believe it or not, they fell in love and they died, was Romeo and Juliet's description. So how do you break it down that far down?
Go for it.
I have one for Hamlet that is terrible.
Oh,
Terrible. This kid hates his stepdad.
Oh, that's easy. No, the one that was
A little obsessed with ghosts.
yeah. The one that was in Jump Off the Cliff Notes was his father was a Great Dane, his mother was a Dum, and he was one sick puppy. So that's always stuck with me. Ever since 5th grade when I read that.
I got one for Hamlet. What about grown man pity parties to the point of hallucination?
This guy can't decide what to do.
Yeah.
It's like just watching.
Right, jokes aside.
Jokes aside.
Okay, I'm going to reach in front of me here. I'm going to grab this young lady's work. So we have about, I'm not going to read aloud. I'm just going to show here. She's got her top here. Hang on here. Okay. So I am reading, I'm showing you unharmonics, unharmonious. I'm in practice reading. I only write about it. Anyway, so she's got a little bit about herself. And here to here. So this little bit of room between my two fingers, for those who can see it on video, roughly, I'm going to call that 3 inches.
You get 3 inches.
Roughly 2.5 to 3 inches of a back cover is her description of her book. How do we take anything from 45,000 words to 150,000 words and make it that short?
I've got Kathleen, then I've got Jen, and then I've got Brad, and that's it so far.
All right, I'll actually be serious this time. It's really difficult, but I will try. I have heard that you should do main character wants something, but there's an obstacle. And that is how you structure your blurb about your book.
Jen?
Another strategy that I've heard, if the format that Kathleen mentioned doesn't feel like it's really working to hook people for whatever reason, the way your novel is structured. I had advice once that said, write your back copy to the first third of the book. Like that's the part you're selling. If your book, like if it ends in a graveyard and you mention the graveyard on the back, they're gonna read a long time wondering where the graveyard was. They were reading it for a graveyard and there's no graveyard in this book. So you don't want to give away the ending on the back cover or else you've given away the entire thing. But if you get them hooked at the beginning and they open up and they find what they read on the back with that intrigue, like that's the point. You're reading to the first third, but you're reading to the first third with the big like intrigue spot in it. So it's the first sort of obstacle on their journey and then maybe an allusion to what happens after what happens if they succeed or if they fail, you know, that sort of thing. To get an idea, just an idea of hooking people in without giving the whole cow away.
I'm going to go to Brad, and actually I'm going to go to Ryan, then Brad. That way I'm not strangling everybody.
So I have a confession. I actually wrote the Twilight series.
Eight Our Fathers and 2 Hail Marys.
Working on my way back. I was reading at the camp in New Mexico. It was really high elevation, so I blend lack of air. So here I am reading like the last book, right? I'm almost done with the stupid thing to make my fiance now wife happy, right? This is important. And I am so upset because you think I have to deal with all this like emotional crap, and all it was a big old battle at the end. That's all I care about. They talk it out. I was so upset. Don't do that to your readers. You know, like actually deliver what you're promising. You know, because your readers are waiting for that, and they might not have enough air at the time, and they really need that, and they didn't get it, and they're going to remember it forever. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Jen is right, you should not give away the end of your plot, but you can totally talk about it. I do in almost every one of my descriptions. Why? Because it's important, it's the stakes. The most important thing that you can put into the description of your book next to the character is the stakes that that character has to face in those stories. So if it is some major tragedy that they're having to face, if it's some giant evil they're having to overcome, if it's just some internal struggle that they're running through, the stakes that your character is facing in the book is the most important thing that you can put into the description of your book. It is the reason why we're going to read. It's the reason why we're going to care. It's the reason why we're going to be intrigued. Yes, the setting and all of that kind of stuff needs to go in there as well. And you can do it in formulas like Kathleen has. But there is no one way to write a book description. So don't, if you read that blog article, just, skip it and go to the next. So I would say that. However, this is my advice on writing it, okay? All along your process, you're going to need this short description of your book. We talked about it. When you pitch the book to an agent, when you write the back jackie, when you write the query letter, all of this is going to come, it's not going to be the exact wording, but it's going to have some of the same beats in each one of these things. So the simplest way that I can say to do this is write out a description of your book. I don't care how long it is. It can be 5 pages if it needs to be, but write out a description of your book, what happens in it. And then take that and start cutting. And start cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting until you've gotten to the absolute minimalist thing that you can put forward. And the reason I say that is because the lines that you start pulling out, the little words that you start pulling out, you'll realize you don't need all of those. And then you'll start to see the lines that you've written that really do encapsulate your book. And once you've found those, that will be the essence of your pitch and your query and your back jacket copy and what you use to sell the book. So start off and write it, and I recommend this for synopsis too, if you need to write a synopsis. It's a really good way to do it. So start out and just write it all out and then start finding the little tidbits in there that really do touch on what your book is about.
Lee, and then over to Chanel.
All right, I just want to say, since I write romance and erotica, I do hers. So you want to know about the heroine, and you want to know about the hero, and you want to know a little bit about the obstacle they have to overcome. So I do usually 3 little paragraphs, or I combine the 2. So it's a little bit different formula because people, when they want that romance, they want to know what both of them are facing.
Okay, I'm going to hand Chanel, and then I'm going to warn every author who's got a book up here or their short story, if you can do the short story, I would like for you to read one of your examples. Before.
Okay, all I have is a please don't in terms of your back cover copy. Everyone loves surprises. No one likes surprises that's going to make them put the book down and walk away.
Yes.
So if there is going to be a reveal that is going to be game changing in a way that is potentially negatively impacting your readers, that might be something you want to include on your back cover, just so they know what they're getting into and aren't disappointed with their reading experience.
And then I'm going to pass this over to Lee next, and then we'll go down the line.
But since you brought that up, and I love that you did, I'm going to give you one quick example. I'm not going to throw names under the bus or anything else. I'm being serious. I'm not going to do that. There was one author whose back cover said one thing, was looking for that very famous author, by the way. Well, I was an extreme fan of hers for years. Their failure to fulfill on that promise caused me not only to want to throw away the book, I almost did. It was actually someone else's, which is what stopped me from throwing it in the trash. I stopped reading that author for almost 15 years. So you don't want a reader to do that to you. And with that, Lee, tell us about yours.
Okay, I'm gonna use Angel of Death, the first book in the St. Louisville Vampire series. So it starts out, it says, Mika Shadow, the task at hand. Save the elder vampires from the plague, the endless sleep. As a hired assassin, Mika Shadow knows not to let emotions get in the way. Given her skills and gifts, she's known as the chosen one among her kind. Dominique Pigmar, the owner of a pharmaceutical company that was at one time invested in the magical serum. Mika needs to save her kind. Dominique is a notorious playboy as well. And from the moment that he looked into her hypnotic gaze, he knew he had to do whatever it would take to make her his.
Pass it on to Brad.
Good story. All right, so this is from Iron Horseman, the first novel. And I decided to do that. I hadn't thought of doing my third one, but because it's got the whole like back and let's really conclusion kind of thing. But this is it. So it has the tagline, High Adventure in the Age of Industry. And I also use a couple other tags. But anyway, here we go. Alexander Armitage doesn't fit in at Eton College. Not only is he an American, his father, a new teacher at the college, is obsessed with ancient languages and the dusty old books. He makes Alexander spend his time studying instead of trying to make friends. When his father is kidnapped, Alexander gladly leaves school behind and finds himself partnered with a baron's daughter, her little bronze dragon, and an eclectic crew of sky raiders in a quest to find him. When their search leads them to Malta, they discover a secret society intent on unleashing the ancient Iron Horsemen and usurping the reins of power in London. In a steam-powered Victorian world where pirates prowl the sky and secret societies determine the future like a game of chess, Alexander must confront the harsh legacy of the divided country he left behind, the new aristocratic world that rejects him, and the pressure of being offered to become a horseman himself.
Over here to Ryan. Like a Brad Tangle.
I'm like torn between two of my titles. I think I'll do my newer one. So this is from the Trombones. That's my latest short story. Schemes, snakes, trombones. Trombones? When our hapless hero is kicked out of the Royal Orchestra, he stumbles into Maine's bar, a place filled with shady characters, devilishly strong drinks, and biting snakes dangling from the rafters. Nothing better to do, and all the rest of the countryside's musicians practicing next door. The trombonist adjusts his slides, sets his lips to his instrument, and embarks on an adventure. Wild evening away at Maeve's bar. Hear the trombonist play. Watch out for the snakes, Green Grendel and White Swen. And mind your P's and Q's, especially with Maeve's own special brew, Old Rathcan's Fire Ale. And while you're at it, why not stay for the encore? How the trombonist and friends overcome the treacherous wiles of the greedy chief maestro next door. Pull up a chair and mind the snakes. Tonight's gonna be
Over to Lane.
This is from the first of the two-book series, the He'll Find You series. This is from He'll Find You Till Death Do Us Part. In a remote village of northwestern post-revolution Romania, Ovidiu Tudoran, a poor subsistence farmer, is murdered. His 18-year-old pregnant daughter, Tatiana, is missing. Whisked away to Bucharest by her wealthy American lover, Kenton Faraday, Tatiana dreams of a future full of the love and riches she's seen on American television. Instead, Tatiana is kept a virtual prisoner in the Faraday family's large but hostile Bucharest home. A search for her and her father is conducted in her village, but the case eventually goes cold. From the quiet country roads of poverty-stricken 1991 Romania to the bustling streets of St. Louis, Missouri in 2016, He'll Find You Till Death Do Us Part takes you on a journey where deception, manipulation, bribery, and corruption are woven into a page-turning mystery that will leave you on the edge of your seat.
Please pass that down to Kathleen. Yeah, there you go.
You've all already heard mine, go straight to Kathleen.
Marianne, oh, this is for the one in here.
You have to say what yours is.
So this is for the Fairy Tree, which is in the book in front of me, the best science fiction and fantasy of the year. Marianne knows her sister's new husband is a monster, but her parents can't see what she sees. If she's going to save her family, she'll have to make a deal. But fairy deals never end well for the humans who make them.
Okay. And with that, we're going to wrap up.
We're going to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for coming to Right Back Live. I actually have the ability this week to actually talk about what's coming up in the next several weeks. So before I do that, normally I don't have that ability. These guys laugh, but they know that's the case. You can find Right Back Radio if you have never heard us until now. As, by the way, those who are watching this video, we have people behind the computer that you don't see. You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, TuneIn, YouTube, and there's a lot more that gets pushed out there. You're able to find it, and everything is free. We do have a new episode every Sunday. Coming up next week is Exploring the World of Harry Potter. That is going to air next Sunday. On the first Sunday of July, which is July 7th. Be comfortable promoting your work. And the episode after that, actually, I'm going to go even further. Tracking the results of promotion. And the last episode that we have recorded will be appearing on July 21 is Connecting to Your Readers. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week writing. Tune in next week for yet another interesting topic in the writing industry. Take care.
Oh, yeah, no, that's an audio thing.
Better bring it back, no worries.